And welcome to yet another edition of Ask the AD with Athletic Director Greg Christopher here at Bowling Green State University. I'm Dave Horger. Greg, as always, we've got a lot to cover, and let's start with the relatively new and beautiful Stroh Center. We've had an opportunity now for concerts, several basketball games, volleyball games. Could you give us an update on the progress and working out some of the bugs of the new place?
That's a fair way to put it, Dave. I think, I've used the analogy of when you move into a home, it almost takes you a year to kind of get through it. And the facility is new, it's beautiful, it's obviously a big improvement in a lot of different ways, but there are some bugs that we're trying to work out, and it may take us a while. Some of them we're fixing very quickly. I would put them into two categories almost: operational, and then in a way staffing, and we're learning on both accounts. We appreciate the fan feedback, even though sometimes they, how it gets delivered sometimes is interesting. But on the operational side, it's been fascinating. As big as that building is, the heating, the cooling, getting it right. Differences in 500 people can make a big difference in how we, the temperature and so forth. So we appreciate fans' patience on that front, but we'll get it right is the short version. The staffing piece, there's been some feedback, that hasn't been real positive in some of the changes we've made from Anderson to Stroh. On that front, I would say again, we appreciate people's patience. If there are specific examples, we try to address them right then and there. But I think there are some basic guardrails that, and maybe some industry practices that we've introduced at Stroh, a lot of which we've been doing at football for years, and no one's batted an eye at that. We really can't back off some of what I would call the basics. But individual instances and mistakes that have been made, we'll absolutely address those. So. Bugs in the system, is probably a decent analogy. And again, we absolutely want fans to have a great experience at our games, whether it's soccer, swimming, basketball, hockey, or football. So we need feedback, and that's the only way that we can improve.
Overall, people seem to love the building.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for fans, the impact's been bigger than perhaps our student athletes and coaches. At the end of the day, a court's a court.
Sure.
But for the fans, the experience, I think, once they get in the building and get settled, if we can get the temperature right, it's a positive experience.
Let's talk football.
Mm-hmm.
First, just your thoughts on this past football season. It was evident that this was a better football team this year compared to last year, even if you disregard the record. But just your thoughts on the progress that has been made and where this team's headed.
Yeah, progress is a good word. Step in the right direction this year, clearly. The team was bigger, stronger, faster. Maybe the first thing you always say is anything short of a championship is disappointing, or you feel like there's still work to be done. So there's clearly work to be done. But whether you watch them operate on a weekly basis in meetings, just in the hallway and interaction in the weight room, you can tell that this team is taking the right steps. It's frustrating sometimes that those steps then don't always translate to wins on the field. And you can tell clearly on the field there's work to be done. They were better, they were bigger, stronger, faster, executed better at places, but then there were still frustrating mistakes. So in general, which is how I always try to step back and view any of our sports programs in general, where are they headed? This team is tracking in the right direction, and I think everybody's excited about 2012 when you look at our roster and where we're headed, especially when you compare our roster to some of the other MAC rosters and how things are turning over.
Expectations for next year will be considerably higher than going into this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we thought this year, that bandwidth might have been 5 to 7 wins, and we were right there. The Kent game and the Wyoming game are probably the two most frustrating in how things played out. And next year, let's take a look once we get that MAC schedule and get a sense of who we're playing on that side. And we know we've got two heavies with Virginia Tech and Florida in the non-conference. So I don't want to be pegged with wins. Here's what the expectation is, but you know, for the next 2 years, I would expect this program to continue to get better and improve.
One of the questions submitted pertaining to the MAC announcing the divisional split for football. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, we know that where we are today, obviously, is we're in the East. There have been a lot of rumors, will we move to the West? And that's to be determined, I guess. Let's put it that way. It's a discussion. We have our next MAC meetings in January, and I know it'll be on the docket at that point. I don't know that we'll decide at that point, but clearly with UMass and Temple now a permanent part of the equation for football, there's going to have to be some discussion of where things fit. You know, whether Temple stays in the East, UMass goes to the West, or do you move some other pieces around? So I would expect that decision to come sometime in the first half of 2012, but don't know exact timing.
Is there an advantage for BG to be in the East or the West?
There's probably pros and cons on both sides if we sat here and talked for 15 or 20 minutes on that subject. So I know, I guess we're the one institution that probably has experience on both sides of the ledger. So again, you could probably come up with pros and cons each way. You know, Dave and I have talked about it. I don't know that there's a strong sense that one is better than the other. And then you've got to think in terms of our other sports too and how that impacts things. So there's been some discussion of, do you need divisions at all in the Mid-American Conference? You have to have them for football because of the championship game piece. But you know, do you need them for other sports? I don't know.
Video board. Rumors are circulating. There may be a new video board here.
We've actually talked about this before, and we tried to get it done in the summer and just couldn't move all the queuing and capital piece as quickly as we wanted to. But yeah, they'll be in here in about a month, I think, or so, and use the spring period. Hopefully, snow doesn't stop them too much. But we'll have a new video board in place for the spring game, is what we expect. And the footprint will be the same footprint you see there, but the video board will be larger and take up that entire, probably the entire school board area.
There will be areas for people to advertise on said board. Isn't that kind of how that
Instead
works?
of static board advertising now, that'll be integrated into the video board. So it'll be much like the video board that's in the Stroh Center. Give you a kind of a snapshot of what that'll look like.
We're losing our volleyball coach. It's been 29 years. Denise Vanderwally has been here, and so at this particular point, we don't have a person appointed yet to that spot. Can you give us an update on where we stand there?
Sure. First of all, Denise had a great reception on Saturday. It was a very fitting way to tribute what she's done for Bowling Green and send her out for her retirement in the right way. This has been an unusual search, I guess, in a way, since we've known for a year, almost, essentially, that we'd be ramping up to this. So a lot of background work has been done, and we've already narrowed the pool to a somewhat manageable group of candidates. And in fact, Leslie and I fly to San Antonio tomorrow, which is where the volleyball Final Four and coaches convention is being held, and we will interview a group of candidates at that point in time. Everything we need to be successful is in place here, you know, from facility to resources and so forth. And Denise is leaving a great foundation, you know, for the program. So really pleased with the group of applicants that we have, and you know, hopefully over the next couple of weeks we'll be able to make an announcement, and then the coach will arrive sometime in January, and away we'll go.
All right. I think we've got her covered for the final program of this year. Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks.